my doubts that we're going to get as fortunate as you. What was your question of the day yesterday, Austin, concerning the Buckeye linebackers?
Yeah, I got a question. Arrived on X, said, is this the year that the Ohio State dominance returns at linebacker?
Last year was pretty good.
And I got the question, and it felt like I had been transported back in time to like 2021. Mm-hmm. Like there was a real lull. Ohio State was in the midst of this multi-season period where there was no all Big Ten linebackers. And we know what happened in some of the matchups that weren't to Ohio State's favor in the national championship game against Alabama. And
yes,
it's become
why did you bring that up?
A well-worn joke there. It's not just about Tough Borland or, some of those, linebacker groups that weren't.
To be fair, Devontae Smith was pretty good.
And to be fair, the defense that was called, he was not supposed to be the primary guy in coverage on that.
I would hope not.
Yeah, he wasn't. But it doesn't matter. It made for an easy joke and a screen grab that you could say, hey, this shouldn't happen. And I would agree, based on that screen look and not getting any safety help in the middle of the field, that's probably not what Ohio State wanted.
That's a A1 matchup for Bama.
Yeah, they're like, we'll take the Heisman Trophy winner here and see what happens. But I was like, that doesn't seem like it actually applies anymore. I feel like this has turned the other direction. The tide has turned. The momentum is on Ohio State's side. And it's hard to build a number one ranked total defense if one of your positions sucks, isn't dominant, or isn't close to the level of dominance that you expect. And I was trying to rack my brain. It was like, I don't know, were there periods of time when Jim Knowles and James Laurinaitis were trying to scheme around Cody Simon and Sonny Styles to create something? And I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, they seem to be in the thick of it.
So that doesn't jog my memory. I remember advocating that Cody Simon needed to be a Butkus finalist, and people weren't paying attention to how well he played, and that didn't matter because he was stacking up defensive MVP performances in the playoff on the way to a national championship. So I just thought, I understand the question. I know where it's coming from. And if you looked even at the awards that Ohio State won a year ago, I don't think Cody Simon got enough attention. I don't think Sonny Styles got enough attention. I don't think Arvell Reese, even as the third guy, was getting enough credit for the work that they were doing. But I thought, you know what? It was pretty darn good. But I'm gonna still take the question at face value. So let's find something deeper than just being the number one defense and just winning a national championship. And I was like, PFF, which some people like, some people don't like, amongst starting linebackers that played 80% of their snaps last year, Cody Simon was third in the country.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty darn good. Sonny Styles was 25th. So Ohio State had two of the top 25 linebackers in the country. That's just off PFF grades. So we could go deeper.
Mind you, that was also Sonny Styles' first year playing linebacker.
Yeah, he's still getting better, by the way. So if we're talking about, all right, well, they lost Cody Simon. Let's say you agree they were dominant a year ago. How do they sustain that? The level of recruiting success has dramatically upticked under James Laurinaitis. That was not the forte of Jim Knowles. He does deserve credit for the scheme and the development of that position. It's not James alone that is doing that. But when it comes to that work in evaluating, working with the personnel, maximizing their talent, he was already doing that before he was full-time. So he deserves credit for that. And he helped build that silver bullet legacy as a player. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, I'm not saying that it was always perfect. We know that it wasn't. For 5-6 years, that reputation that James established, that Marcus Freeman, that A.J. Hawk, that Bobby Carpenter, that these guys all established, that Schleg's established.
Ryan Shazier, we can go down the list, right? It
had fallen off of the map for a group that was known by that silver bullet moniker, and everyone knew to fear those Ohio State linebackers. But I think they had already recaptured that. They were already among the best defenses in the country the last couple years. I thought last year was another major step forward. Cody Simon was phenomenal. Sonny Styles took that next step. And now you need to do that again. But I think it is, you look at how thin the depth was for that group, and you could go back and point and say, well, Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers had this level of production. It was pretty good. Maybe not dominant if you want to be nitpicking on that.
It was solid.
Solid, not nothing spectacular, nothing flashy about it. And that's really true for Cody Simon and Sonny Styles too, which if they had been more outspoken or flashier, maybe they'd win more awards and we wouldn't have even had the opening to discuss this. But what James Laurinaitis has done now is elevate this level of recruiting success. When we've talked so much, Beamer, about Peyton Pierce being that next guy in and schools trying to tamper and get him in the portal, he's an example of identifying someone you want, building a relationship, and then having someone buy into your plan. That happened with both Riley Pettijohn and TJ Alford in this recruiting cycle. They
excited to see those guys.
They show up,
and I'm not trying to just fast forward to the season. I'm also excited to see Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, but those two guys that you mentioned right there, I'm excited to see what their Buckeye careers hold.
And a healthy Garrett Stover in between there. I don't think that he should just be dismissed. When he was healthy, he is a Stover. Cows don't take days off. He's been a dude
Stover
of the week
Farms.
this summer. He's got that athleticism too. So that's the overall big picture look, is that James Laurinaitis has shown that he's got a knack for taking the football IQ that's in his brain and instilling it in others. And not everyone can do that. When we talk about Brian Hartline or James Laurinaitis, it's not as if just every Ohio State player can come back and pass on their knowledge, and it's that easy. The art of coaching is an art. It is difficult, and not everybody is built for it. James has proven that he can do that part, that he's going to be a passionate recruiter. His players believe in him. And now it's like, okay, how are you going to use it? How does that fit into what we talked about with training camp storylines, Matt Patricia's defense? Are we going to see opportunities with Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Peyton Pearsall on the field?
Yeah.
Are you going to?
I would have to think so. At some point, not saying that it's going to be the lion's share of what they run on defense, but I would think in some sort of situation, or maybe during a quarter of a game or whatever it may be, that at one point this season, you will definitely see those three guys on the field at the same time.
If you're playing Illinois and Wisconsin back-to-back, that's probably a very safe bet that you've got there, Beamer. So my answer to that was Ohio State's level of dominance at linebacker has already returned. The mandate now for James Laurinaitis and the Silver Bullets is to keep it there. And you have to do that on the recruiting front, you have to do that on the development front, and then you have to do it in terms of game day performance, schematics, whatever, game plans, all that stuff. And you have to prove it week after week, because it can disappear just that quickly. We saw that. If you think back to that run that you mentioned with Ryan Shazier and Raekwon McMillan and going throughout the mid-2010s and the success of those linebackers, that
Darren Lee was a monster.
That were so critical to winning in that national championship a decade ago. It's like, well, that's going to stay forever.
Yeah.
Not if you don't pay attention to it. Not if you don't devote the same level of coaching. And what was the punchline 8 years ago? Well, Billy Davis is here, and he's only here because he was in Urban's wedding. Like, James isn't here only because he played at Ohio State. I can promise you that.
Now, it's also a good reason why he's back at Ohio State.
It's a perk. It's a bonus.
Yeah.
It's a foot in the door. But Ryan Day didn't give him that job the first time that he expressed an interest in it.
No, he did not.
He had to go elsewhere to do that and show that he was really passionate about it and he was going to be successful at it. And it only took 1 year for everyone to realize,
oh boy, this guy's pretty good.
Might want to have him around. You don't want to recruit against him. You'd like to have him recruiting for the Block O and the program that he gave his blood, sweat, and tears to as a player. Because if he gives you even an ounce of that same intensity as a coach, you're going to be pretty well off for it.
Yeah, and the best part about James, too, and just getting to work with him in his days of working here, he is a very, very real human being, and I can see why those kids, recruits, latch onto him, and then when they get here, how the development works. I mean, I can see it, and you can see it on the football field with just 1 year.
And it's the same conversation that we have at the other positions. It's not, I mean, James, when he signed his extension and was once the highest paid linebacker in the history of the NFL. Now you're not just talking about guys currently in the league for Ohio State to point to. Now you're talking about Brian Hartline got to a second deal. James Laurinaitis got to a second deal.
Leading tackler all time for the Rams.
And then you're coming back and you're pitching not just your football intelligence, your knowledge of the game, but also your experience in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center and wearing the scarlet and gray. Like, that is the difference maker. It elevates that. And when you're talking to a recruit or someone is trying to tamper and get, I don't know, Peyton Pierce out of the transfer portal, he can sit down and say, this was the plan. This is what I told you about when you came 1 year ago. I still believe in this, and this is the path forward. And you can believe it or not believe it. But if you're the player that I thought you were, I think you're probably going to stick around.
I think linebacker room is just going to be fine.
Just fine? Yeah.
Yeah. Just fine to very good. We'll do hashtag Buckeyes.
Not dominant. That beam's on record.
A very good to dominant, maybe best in the country. Hashtag